Hello, Flower friends. I am so excited, and you might have heard her on the podcast before, but my friend Francesca from the Hotel Florist is back on the podcast, and we have some really juicy topics to talk about. And in case you have been under a rock on Instagram and in the world of flowers in general, Francesca, I'd love for you to just explain a little bit about who you are and your business.
I am so excited to be here with you today. I specialize in helping florists create consistent income without depending on weddings. And I do that via hotel partnerships. So, we're going to be talking about luxury corporate clients, creating sustainable income, having profit first in your business, and why investing in yourself truly matters.
Yeah, I think that this is often a topic that like just kind of circles around because everybody has like this blast of wedding season, and then all of a sudden, there's crickets for a while, and so that income stops. And I mean, you've probably heard me talk. I love weddings, but it's because I do weddings in a way that feels really good, and I don't think that many florists know how to do that. But that's why yours is so appealing, like, what you're doing, and you're showing up every week, you're not having to worry about this big, huge orchestration of this huge event. How did you get into that? Like, talk a little bit about, like, that shift because you did flowers for weddings and kind of all the things before you transitioned.
Definitely. I think that we really have this misconception as florists when we're starting our floral business that in order to be successful, we need to be booked and busy. And it's almost like we run around with this like little busy badge of honor. So when you become a florist, for me, I was like literally Googling, what's the difference between a florist and a floral designer? And, do you have to own a flower shop and to be a florist? And how do you even get trained to become a florist? And I went and took a 2 weeks quote unquote master's course in person where I essentially learned like 5 different types of flowers and how to make very random arrangements that you would typically sell in retail. And I learned how to design for a wedding. So, like, literally, I made a wedding bouquet and a boutonniere and some bridesmaid bouquets. And I was off on my merry way. I maybe even learned how to make a flower crown. And I quickly realized that okay, so now I have to build this business so I can actually utilize this skill set. And the only way I really know how to do that is to quote unquote go after brides. And we don't realize it as we're building our business if our end goal is just to be booked and busy, is that you can build your business in a sustainable way or you can build your business in a performative way. And I find that for a lot of the floral industry, our whole viewpoint has been get as many weddings as you can, get the biggest weddings you can. If you have one wedding per week, it's not enough. You need 3 to 5 in order to like be really legit. And you don't realize that you're literally selling all your weekends, you're selling all your summers, you're selling your time. And your time is you're never going to go to a vending machine and pull out more time. Like this is it. Your kids are only as old as they are right now. You're at this stage with your partner right now. You are interested in hobbies outside of your work right now, and you're literally pushing that for the future to like one day. And for me, I did the same thing. I was like, well, I need to book all my weekends and I need to be this wedding florist that's like hot in demand. And I just realized that all the mornings at the time I was juggling 2 different studios because I had started my floral business in Dubai and then I moved to Houston. I was up at 3 a.m. trying to do time zones with Dubai about weddings, and I was still trying to land weddings in Houston. And I was just like, what does my life come to? Like, I'm literally sitting here in the dark, hunched over this laptop. I don't even know if I'm going to get this wedding, but this wedding planner demands the proposal. And I got to be at the wholesalers, in 3 hours to make the second shift happen. And I started falling out of love with my business. It was like not sustainable. I was so exhausted. I was bitter. I was like, I just don't get how this works because all this time I actually really wasn't touching a stem, in a way that felt good. I didn't feel creative. I just felt like I was executing something. And it wasn't until I had enough leverage. And leverage for me is like when you don't really have an option, there's no more thinking about it. It is either you go left or right. That is when you have leverage in your life. And for me, I got to a point where I didn't know how I was going to pay $1,700 for the rent of this fancy studio that I thought I had to have and like the really bougie part of town so people could take me seriously. And I was getting no sleep and I felt like I was making no money. And I was just like, okay, I either quit next month and close the doors and say, well, that was fun. I tried, or I figure out a completely different way. And I've never been a quitter in the sense that failure is not an option to me. It's just a redirection, it's a pivot. And I thought, well, if I'm technically already not successful in my version of success, meaning happy, satisfied, feeling at peace with what I'm doing, then let me look at my background. And my background was in the hospitality space. I went to school for hotel and restaurant management. I literally have a Bachelor of Science degree in it. I went and worked my way up through different hotel brands, from checking you in at the front desk to being the right hand of an owner of a hotel and a president and CEO. Like, I knew the hospitality industry like the back of my hand. And I thought, well, they have flowers in their lobby and like I know how to speak to hotels. So what if I just tried to give that an extra push?
Yeah.
And literally the next month, I landed my first hotel account, which in today's numbers is well over $100,000 secured for the year. And that's when I took a big breather and I realized, okay, now I get it, because now I can design something every single week. It feels like I have creativity again, and I don't feel this pressure of constantly trying to sell my life.
So you said a word that's really interesting to me that I'd love to talk about, and that's performative. You and I think both are intuitive coaches that really dig down deep into like not only like are you doing all of these standard business practices, but like how it feels like in the deep part of your heart. And that word performative is something that I think registers with most people who are, I mean, you're running around with your head cut off because you think you have to. But like, explain what performative means to you and like how you think it's shown up in florist or yourself, because it's such a fascinating word.
I think, in my own experience, it was very easy for me to behind the scenes feel like I was just breaking down. Like, let's say I signed up for a flower bar for Valentine's Day and I made the mistake of not actually getting the correct number of orders. I made the mistake of listening to the client telling me to basically triple what I should have ordered just so everything looked full. And I remember standing in my studio covered in flowers, like could not even move, and knowing I was losing thousands of dollars. But I remember taking out my phone, taking a selfie, going something like living my dream. And I have goosebumps just talking about it right now, living my dream. And I can't believe I get to call this my job. And then putting down my phone, knowing that my husband was literally living and working in a completely different country. I was somehow trying to build this business. I was scared out of my mind. I was so beyond angry that this had happened. I had no idea how I was going to pay for all this. And on top of it, I couldn't be honest online. I couldn't go online and say, guys, I'm scared. I'm pissed that this has happened. I had to pretend like everything was fine. And it was actually, and we're going to go a little deep here, and thinking about it now, it was quite traumatizing for me because, especially as someone who grew up in a very abusive household and went through foster care, I pretended my whole life that everything was fine when things were really not fine. They were actually detrimental at home. And here I am in my business doing the exact same thing, performing for Instagram, because guess what? If I don't perform, if I don't pretend that I'm just bawling out of control and I have all this work and I'm so hot and in demand, then people aren't going to take me seriously. And I think that performative viewpoint that we have is the thing that's killing us slowly from the inside.
Well, I think formative shows up a lot of people in regards to like there's a direct correlation with money. And I think one of the biggest shifts that I think that you've had is when you went to doing profit first. And
Mhm.
I did an episode on profit first like a few months back, but we did it in my mastermind. And like I sent the book to everybody and read it because I feel like it's such a critical business tool. And nobody in the floral industry, except like I think you and I think one other educator talks about it. It's like
Yeah.
everybody else is winging it. And that, I mean, for real, they're winging it. And especially, it seems like, and I've ran into a lot of this lately, people feel this need to look in a certain way, to have the fancy studio, to have
Yeah.
all of these things that honestly, like, I am way happier being 20 feet from my children, being 20 feet from my alpacas, and working in my garage, not worrying. I pay myself rent because I want to also make sure that I'm covering expenses. everybody feels like they need the cool tools or the cool, like, look at me in my white walled urban, I'm in a warehouse in an art building. It's like, stop. Like, but it seems like it's just something ingrained in our culture, especially with florists, because we feel like we need to look cool on Instagram. Like,
Yeah.
how is that shifted for you?
I first of all, I think a lot of people are performing on Instagram because it means they don't have to sell in real life. They think if I'm shiny enough, if I look, like I've got enough going on, people are going to pick me. It gives pick me energy and like you and 1,000 other florists. Whereas if you just actually put on some big girl panties and walked into a hotel lobby and asked to speak to the GM and had a 5-minute conversation, you're so much closer of creating consistent income then how vibey you can make this monstera leaf look in a shadow on your wall. Let's just be real.
And you
So
got some really cool beaded candles to put next to the Sedminster leaf that you spent a ton of money on, and then you went and
no,
bought
flipping bears. I'm
a whole
sorry.
fucking rock kind of crazy quartz candle holders, and you just it's a vibe in your mind.
Yeah, and you know what? If I'm sure it is vibey, like nobody's doubting that, but that's not a marketing strategy. That's a sales strategy. It's giving pick me energy. So for me, discovering profit first happened 3 years into my business. So I didn't have a problem making money. I had a problem keeping money. And it wasn't like I was spending it all on like lattes and so many magazines and, taking too many Uber rides. Like, no, I was literally reinvesting everything in my business and still trying to keep up with being performative. So it looked like new uniforms. It looked like team members that probably weren't utilized properly. It looked like taking on more expenses, like buying a van because it was no longer cool to rent a van. It was just like I just was growing super fast. And
Yeah.
at this point, I had a studio in Dubai, I had a studio in Houston, I had a studio in Dallas. And I remember sitting outside, if anyone is listening in Dallas, Texas, it was based inside the Fairmont Dallas. And there's a restaurant across the street. And I remember sitting at this restaurant and I was staring at the glass box that my floral studio was in. And I just thought, if I didn't go to work tomorrow and I hung out on the couch with my cat, I would literally make more money than going and pulling 12, 14, 16-hour days to keep this all running. And I was embarrassed. I didn't have the opportunities we have today. I couldn't go hire a coach and ask the coach, like, what the heck is going on? I couldn't like go download a course and be like super sneaky and try to learn on the side and pretend I had it all figured out. I literally was just disheartened, but then I started like sitting and suffering in shame.
Yeah.
Okay, I haven't figured this out yet. Like it's clearly my problem. And it wasn't until I found this book called Profit First and I quickly realized like, oh, you mean I need to set money aside for my business? You mean I need to pay my business and I need to pay myself? And I think another thing we get really wrong in the floral industry is this belief in acceptance of quote unquote, you don't make money. And this identity that a lot of florists have of like, oh yeah, I've been at this for 25 years and I've never taken home a paycheck. Like that's not okay. That is not the reason why you became a florist. You did not give yourself a permanent 24/7 job to not pay yourself. So I quickly read this book and I was mortified at the fact that I could not even put aside 1% profit. And I'm going to break it down for you in a minute, like how you actually can figure this out for your business. But I was like, if I can't even take away 1% from my operating expenses, something has to change. And it forced me to look at things in a different way. It actually forced me to grow my business like a big girl and not like a little girl trying to play house and prove to the world that she was good enough.
Right. So when you made that like shift, like how did your business change? Like what happened when you actually started implementing this?
So I had to find my voice. I had to set boundaries. So the way that this looks like is like you have one account called your income account. This is where all your money is like coming into your business. So this is your business checking account. What happens is most people stop there and all the money comes in and then they sit down and they pay all their bills and they go, oh man, I only have $10 left. I guess I'll take home $10 this month for my business and pay my bills with it. Or no,
Made himself period.
exactly. So everything comes into your income account. Now, you are going to take out, and just for the sake of math, like you can play with these numbers, but I always say if my business needs to get paid, I need to get paid, and the government needs to get paid, we're all getting paid the same amount until I can pay myself more. So if I know that taxes are going to be 10%, 15%, 20%, then I need to make sure I'm also not only paying the government 20%, but I'm going to pay my business 20%. So I'm going to tuck aside 20%. And I also want to get paid 20% because I'm actually the one showing up, doing all the work, making this shit happen in the first place.
Yep.
So right there, it's 60% of your money that comes into that income account. It's divvied out. So think about it like this: high yield savings account, that's where your tax money goes. It can make a little bit of money on the side for you until your taxes are due, whether you're paying like monthly sales and use tax or you're paying whatever kind of tax you got going on. I know we have florists listening all around the world.
Yep.
If you don't spend that 20% that's in your high yield savings account, great, take it out as a bonus at the end of the year. Like,
Right.
great, look at you. You have a nice Christmas bonus.
Yep.
Your owner's compensation, that goes into your personal checking account. You have now paid yourself. Congratulations. And then that money that goes into your business for, your business being paid, that also goes into some sort of high yield checking account, or sorry, savings account that you do not touch. You do not have access to this account because you will use it as your rainy day fund every single week. That's not what it's there for. Then what's left over is 40% operating expenses. So to your point, you're like, how did you actually implement this? When I started, I had 89% operating expenses. 89%. That means that for every dollar that came in, 89 cents went out to cover something. So no wonder I felt like I was making no money. But now somehow I have to whittle that down to 40%. Otherwise, I'm taking away from the government, and they're not very happy about that. I'm taking away from my business, which makes me feel like a really shitty CEO, or I'm taking away from myself. And last time I checked, I can't pay my mortgage with like funsies. So I had to get really serious. I start asking myself, do we need this employee? What is this employee really doing for us? Can I restructure this person's obligations? I don't think we need new uniforms this quarter. We'll pull that out of the business profit maybe next year. I don't think we need to hire an SEO expert. I think we just need to fucking go sell more. You just start, you start looking at your wholesalers. You're like, hey, wholesaler, I actually have guaranteed $500, $1,000, $2,000 orders with you every single week. I kind of want to negotiate that. I now want, 50 cents, a dollar off every single stem that I buy from you. And if you don't want to give it to me, I'll go negotiate and I'll go get it from somewhere else.
Yeah.
You start using your brain and negotiating to get your your operating expenses to 40%. Is it uncomfortable? Sure. Is it hard? Yes, because it's new. But it's not because it's actually hard. It's just the fact that you have to implement things that are going to give you a voice and confidence in your business. And I can tell you that's how I made it through a pandemic. And that's how I was able to start a brand new company at the same time.
Yeah. Do you think that profit first can work for any florist? Because that's one of the biggest questions that I get asked.
If you are receiving money in a business checking account, you have the obligation as a floral CEO to use profit first if you're serious about building a profitable and sustainable business. Again, my first, like every single dollar that comes in, so my first check that landed in that checking account for my business, I remember it was like something like, okay, and now I'm taking $1.25 and I'm putting it aside as profit. And it felt so stupid. $1.25. Like, what is that going to do for me? I can maybe buy 2 stamps. Not even, I can buy a stamp.
Yeah.
But that's how it starts, because it's like all things. It's discipline, it's commitment, it's compounding. And today, if I can take out 20, 30, 40, 50% of something, then I'm going to be so grateful for the version of me that barely could take out 1%.
Yeah. Yeah. I think most florists haven't even heard about it because floral educators are just not talking about it. The world doesn't talk about it, but I think it is a complete game changer. And I mean, that's why we're talking about it, because we deserved to pay ourselves. Otherwise, you get resentful. You get in this spot where you're burning out. And burnout is something that I know you talk a lot about, because a lot of times somebody will burn out as a wedding florist to transition to a hotel florist or to
Yeah.
do something that's consistent. And number one reason of burnout is you're resentful because you're not making any money. I mean,
There's no excuses now because, like, for example, there is a we'll have to include a link in the show notes. There is a bank that I use that I absolutely love. I think I've talked about this
yep, I think I heard you talk about it. Yep.
on the last episode. So it's called Novo, and literally in Novo, you can have it where all your money comes in and it instantly goes and dispersed into your different like reserves. So for me, when I first started, I had to go to an Excel spreadsheet. I had it all broken down. I then had to go to this bank account and then had to transfer it here. It took me like 3 hours at Bank of America because, of course, I was working with some guy who was just like, oh, this doesn't make sense. And I don't really think
Oh,
you need this.
I worked with that guy at Wells Fargo. Yeah.
And I'm like, "Don't listen to him." I just said at one point, I said, "Look, you're not running my company. I didn't ask for your opinion. I need you to open bank accounts. That's literally your job." Now on Novo, you can do it within like 2 seconds. There is like literally no excuses not to do this. And I want you to know that even like my CPA had an issue with it. My CPA was like, "Oh, this doesn't work.
Or mhm.
This is overly complicated." And it wasn't until a few months later when I crossed $250,000 and she saw how much money was in my profit account that she went, oh, I'm actually going to implement this in my own business. So you have to just push back. I'm telling you, this book would not be published. There would not be like millions of copies. We would not be spending our precious time trying to persuade you to implement something in your business if it wasn't life changing for us. And it's the exact reason why I have a book called the Hotel Florist Profit Method. It's the exact reason why I have a course, Profit Method, because we're so scared of the word profit. We think somehow we've mismanaged money or we've overcharged.
Yeah.
Profitability is what is going to make you successful. And to have our book actually outsell Profit First when it first launched was like one of the biggest highlights of my career because this is going to change the game in your business. I don't care. I don't care how much money you're making. Big money, small money, it doesn't matter. It works.
I think what's interesting is a lot of people, they just keep doing the same things in their floral business, but expecting different results because I mean, your brain is programmed to do things that feel comfortable because anytime you do anything big and brave or out of your comfort zone, your brain is going to try to keep you safe. And
Mhm.
everything just goes back to like, you know what? This is really comfortable. And get, doing things like this, changing, going to Wells Fargo, like the guy argued with me.
Yeah.
And he didn't even know what Profit First was, and he thought it was dumb because I was honestly doing it for 2 businesses, the coaching and the floral business. So he had
Mhm.
to open all of those accounts, and I'm sorry, but you're probably compensated per account, so, like, just shut up.
Yeah.
But, like, doing big things like this, going and investing, a book to me is so cheap in
Yeah.
comparison to the knowledge you get, but it seems like a big hurdle that I see a lot of florists, like, they're okay with just banging their head against the wall instead of figuring out, "Well, I wanna move the wall, and I wanna create an open space that I'm directed to, do things that have worked for other people." I don't know if you've run into that, but I really see this hesitancy to go all in on getting a course that's going to teach you something like that, or reading a book, or just investing in yourself and your development. Is that something that you experience ever with people that you've coached or just in your real life?
Yeah, I feel like right now we are in a trust recession in
Mhm.
our florists that are out there. A lot of florists came in around the pandemic, and at that time, there was a lot of new coaching going on. There was not a lot of new opportunity, and I feel like it's very hard for people to commit to something. It's like everyone wants immediate results. So they might have told themselves, "Oh, I went all in. I invested in this one thing. I was inside a month-to-month membership for like 2 months and I didn't get anything out of it and I bounced and I left." That's not how it works. It's kind of like, when you're dating to find your person that you're going to spend the rest of your life with. Go on 2 dates and then just write that person off because,
Or
he hasn't
marry
asked you to
him.
marry you yet.
Yeah, or
Do I
Gary, you don't just go jump into you're testing things
You're
out.
like, "Oh, let me see how this goes." You start changing as a person. You're taking on a new identity. You're making space for the to have this person's life now become your life.
Mhm.
And, investing in mentorship and coaching is a lot like that. It's cutting a check for speed. So you get to decide, do I want to do this myself? So it like a
Yeah.
do it yourself version where you can, you're a self-led person. You know that you can make things happen. You just kind of need some resources. Are you the type of person you want someone to do it with you that reminds you, you're a badass, you've got this, like keep going, especially when things get hard, when challenges are coming up? Or are you the type of person that's like you just want someone to do it for you? Where, I don't want to think about this. I want to be able to plug into one-on-one mentorship. It's like insurance. You don't have insurance because you assume something's not going to work. you have insurance for when something doesn't work, you have a place to go plug into to make sure that you stay afloat and that everything's going to be okay. And coaching and mentorship is exactly like this. So it's it depends how fast you wanna move. For someone like me, when I started in this industry a decade ago, I really only had the option of going into an in-person workshop that claimed it was a master's degree, which is laughable, but it's fine. It helped me build the confidence that I needed at that level. But I had to get on an airplane from the United Arab Emirates. I had to fly 10,000 miles across the world to go to Los Angeles. I had to rent an Airbnb for 6 weeks. I had to rent a car. My husband came with me. I had to completely pause my life for almost 2 months just to get a 2 weeks master's in floral design so I could start my floral business.
Yeah.
The fact right now someone could go online and buy a course for 299, 2,999, or get into like do it with me coaching for 8,500, or whatever it is. It's like the fact that someone can collapse time for you, the fact that someone has taken years or a decade of their experience and said, you know what, I'm going to package this really nice and neat for you for the next 6 months so you can bypass all of this, and I'm going to support you while you do it. I think the fact that people are sleeping on that is because they're not actually committed to what it is they want to make happen for themselves, because they don't actually trust themselves that they can pull this off.
I think one of the things that I see just in the world in general, it could be with fitness, it could be with your mental health, it could be with, any decision is action faking. So really having the world think that you're doing something on Instagram, but really not taking action. Like when I'm talking to somebody and I'm like, well, what are you doing, to get moving towards this goal? A lot of times people don't know. They don't have a solid answer. And that's what coaches like us, I mean, we're pushing you like, here is the direction of that success, but it's so hard to sometimes take action. And how do you think is one of the biggest things that's impact you to help actually take action on these things? I know you're an action taking, problem solving woman in general, but like what kind of propels you forward?
For me, it's just the belief that no matter what, I am my greatest return on investment, just no matter what. Like, anytime it comes to, like, for someone who has invested almost $100,000 in her personal development, has written 2 best-selling books, has created US registered trademark brands, like, I have no fear when I put down money.
Yeah.
And it's not because all the times in my life, I just had so much money sitting there where I didn't notice it. It's doing it afraid. It's doing it with fear. It's doing it not knowing what the return is gonna be. It's doing it and realizing that, wow, this is a big disappointment. This actually isn't what I had hoped I would get out of this container. But then realizing you're either gonna get the result you wanted or the lesson you needed. So what am I gonna do with this experience? And just trusting that every step of the way is compounding effort. It's communicating, it's this or better. And I just have decided that every
It's
single
going to be better.
yeah, this or better. I mean, that is all I'm available for.
Yep.
And I have put down almost 20 grand on private mentorship and then walked away realizing, like, wow, they're really great in their marketing, but they didn't actually help me with anything. Was that a tough pill to swallow? Sure. But did I stay in victimhood where I'm like, oh, see, all coaches are bad, they're all scammers? Or did I build up the trust in myself again? And the next person I hired, I was like, okay, am I pedestaling this person? Do I expect them to help me through osmosis? Or am I actually using my brain and making sure that they're going to activate me in a way that I'm not able to activate myself? And that is what I think differentiates people that are winning and winning big, is because they don't think, they just do. And those that are still kind of hoping and praying and thinking and wishing and maybe like one day. And it goes back to how much trust you have in yourself. And that starts with honoring your commitments, even on the smallest scale in your life. If you say you're going to go for a run every morning, are you going for your run? Like, who are you when nobody is around? Because if you're not even keeping those commitments to yourself, of course, this is why you don't trust yourself with money or making commitments for you and yourself and your business.
Yeah, that's actually, I did a video on that the other week about one of the biggest things that you can do is just to show up. And like when you say you're going to do something, you keep the promises to yourself.
Yeah.
Like I keep the promises to myself every day. And
Yeah.
that's what makes somebody successful or not. But that's also really hard to swallow sometimes in this society where everything's supposed to feel warm and fuzzy and good. It's like doing hard shit is doing hard shit. It just
That's what gives you the edge. That's
yes,
what gives you the confidence that everyone wants to run around and say, "I'm just not confident enough." It's because you're not doing hard enough shit.
yeah, you're not doing it consistently. Like,
Yeah.
I'll be like people are like, "Instagram isn't working," and I'll look and I'll be like, "Well, yeah, because 'cause you're not doing it." Like, once a week is not doing something, you
No.
need to consistently show up. But that's so refreshing because I think you and I as coaches are so similar, and that's why I wanted to have you back on the podcast again because it's lovely to see you, and I love your messaging, and I would love to put that
Novo, yeah.
Novo, in because I do think if you can simplify it, especially if you're scared, and then I'll also
Yes.
put a link to the book because I think this book should be in more people's hands because like he and I have you listened to the audiobook?
I have not, no.
You have to listen to the audiobook
Okay.
because in between each chapter, he gives little anecdotal stories about that exact thing, and, I mean, he's not exactly somebody that's really super fun to listen to, but the added value content, it was so great. I mean, he thinks he's funny, like, stuff he's done is funny or, but some of it was just so touching and so relatable that I think the audiobook is also a great tool.
Yeah, those are great places to start, and, again, if you're not implementing profit first in your business, you're really, like, letting yourself down in so many different ways. One, your business is not sustainable, so one more pandemic, one more too quiet of a wedding season, not enough daily deliveries, whatever the thing is, like, your business is underwater, and the business only survives as long as the cash flow survives, and also it gives you life profit, it gives you your life back, so even if, like, you're like Jenny and you're like, "No, I have the wedding game figured out. I take a certain amount of weddings per year and I absolutely love it." Or you're like me where I'm like, "No, I love to know where I need to be every Tuesday morning, and I know I never have to post on Instagram again for the next 6 years because I've already made, like, 7 figures in the bank." Like, you choose your path, but at the end of the day, profit first still really matters.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast again. It was so lovely to see you and spend time with you. And I hope you guys see the value. And if you're not following her on Instagram, I will also have that in the show notes if you guys have been hiding under a rock. So thanks so much for coming, Francesca.
My pleasure.